So, do you have any extra questions over the exceptions?
Can you once again tell the difference between the exception and error?
So, exception is like kind of see, if you are doing something and some error occurs, some kind of exception occurs here. Okay, error is like different, but some kind of exception occurs. So, in that case, what happens? The program terminates exceptionally. Okay, so I'm like abnormally the program would be terminated. But in case of error, error is different. So error is like completely you cannot handle it. So that is kind of like, you cannot handle it and you cannot continue with the execution. So that is the difference between error and exception. Okay, we cannot handle the errors, but we can handle the exceptions.
Okay.
So today we'll be discussing with the file handling. How do we handle the files, text files, or any other files like, if you want to read and write the files, we have different classes for this. Okay. So I'll go with file handling today, and we'll be discussing about different ways of handling the file. Okay. So with different types of classes. So file handling. So it's a file writer. Okay. So file writer class. How do we do this? We are going to write the file with the help of like file writer class. Okay. So file writer class is a part of IO package. Okay. So Java.io package. So likewise, we have file reader. So if you want to read the file character by character, we can use the file reader class. Okay. Reading file. Likewise, we have a buffer reader, buffer writer, and buffer reader. Okay. Writing file. Buffer. Put stream. So these are like kind of a streams. If you want to read something, file with byte by byte. Okay. So not in terms of like characters, but in terms of bytes. So then what you can do is like you can use the file input stream. Okay. So file input stream. For writing with the help of streams. So we are going to use file output stream. Okay. So this is nothing but reading the file, and this is but writing. Reading bytes and writing bytes. Okay. So this is very easy, guys. So with the help of this, we are going to, these are the classes that we are going to use. We have a lot of other classes, but still what we do is like we'll be discussing about these classes because we will be using them mostly. Okay. So how do we like, for example, this is a file. Okay. So file is nothing but it's kind of like a piece of a document which will be stored in a folder. Okay. So anywhere in your system. So what do we do is like we are going to have this file writer. So file writer class, what it does is like it's going to point to this particular class, particular class in the sense particular class. Inside that we are going to write some piece of code. That code, what it does is like it's going to open this file. Okay. So open this file, particular file. Okay. So for example, if I'm creating a new file, so it's going to open a file like file writer fw is equals to new file writer, and we have a constructor. In this constructor, we are going to pass the file path. Okay. For example, if you are taking that file path anyways, like we are going to give this one as like file path. So like this is kind of like a file that we are going to get. Okay. So what we do is like we are going to pass this particular location of that file along with this. Okay. So even you can create a file or you can directly give the location of that particular file if it's already exists. Okay. So let's see that how do we exactly do this. with the help of the program. Okay. I'm going to create a simple folder, files. Okay, so that I can place all the files, whichever files that I want to read, write, everything inside this folder. So I'm going to create a package called file handling. In this, we are going to have all this. File. Writer class. Okay. So first we are just trying to create file writer class. Inside that we are going to write the file. Okay. So what is that location? This is the location and we want to create that file inside this location. Okay. I'm going to just take this location and here I'm going to create a variable called file path. This file path, static string file path. Okay. File path is equals to system.get property we are going to use. Okay. So why I'm using this system.get property is like I want to see, for example, if you take this file location or else if you take this particular piece of code and if you try to execute it, then what happens is like system.get directory, what it is like, it will take your directory. Okay. For example, if I make it as like a, if I put it like this, so you may not have this directory right in your machines. Okay. So you may not have this directory in your machines. So to get your user directory, it's like current directory. Okay. It's going to like get you the current directory and wherever you are going to store this, for example, say Ashok IT, and so on. Okay. So this is a project that I'm going to have this, right? So this is like, current project that I'm working on. System.get property what it is like, it will take that particular directory dynamically. Okay. So this directory dynamically. So whenever you try to execute this program, so with the piece of code that I'm writing above will help you to get the files from this particular location. Okay. So this is nothing but dynamically it will fetch the current path location, current file path location. So here what I'm going to do is like I'm going to create fw.txt. Okay. So fw.txt. So here now we got the file. What is that we have to do now? We have to create object for the file fw class. Okay. So let's see what is there inside this file writer. Okay. See, file writer extends output stream writer. So what it does is like here you can see it will say that writes text to character files using a default buffer size. Okay. So it's like we have some default buffer size. In that buffer size, it's going to write character by character. Okay. So 2 bytes uses either is specified. So there are some characters that we can use whether or not a file is available or maybe created, depends on the underlying platform. So what it does is like if you have that file which is already there, then it will not create it. If you don't have, it will create and it will write the file. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to create object for this class. Now this is kind of like a checked exception. Okay. So compiler will throw the exception. It will say that, if that file is not available, then it's going to throw the file not available. Okay. File not found exception. So it comes under IO exception. So now simply fd.write. Okay. So here you see character by character you can write, integer you can write, string it. If you want to write only one character at a time. Okay. For example, if I write 1 and if I say file.close. Okay. So after this, we want to see that if that file is written properly or not. Okay. File writing completed. See, file writing completed. Now this file has written inside this particular folder. Let me just refresh it and try to see if that file is written or not. Yes, you can see file is written. Okay. One character represents like one is the, we have just written 1 there, right? So it is printing some character which is representing the ASCII value of 1. For example, if I say oh, sorry, we have to cast in this one. Okay. Now go and open this file. It has written something. Okay. So likewise, you can write character by character. Okay. So this is nothing but character by character you are trying to write. Okay. For example, if I say character of some 65, go and try to execute it. Now A value should be written inside that. Okay. So now you see capital A is written in that file. Now this is like, one character at a time. Okay. So I'll just try to create a method here, which will help you to write character by character. Click void. Write char. So it's going to throw the exception. In next method, so how I'm going to call public static. So this is nothing but write character. If I say write character. Now I'll take the same piece of program here. See write character, but here writing complete strings. Okay. So how do we write the strings now? So we have that method, right? So we need not to use the character data. Now I'm going to write it like this is this simple program. Write data to file. Now I'm going to call this one here. Okay. So instead of characters, I'm going to write a complete set. So go and try to execute this program. So it will say that file writing completed. Let's go and see what is the data that we have written. So this is the data that we have written. It's very simple, guys. Only the thing is like you need to create object for this file writer class. Okay. So if you take writer, okay, let me just go to this class. So there is another class which implements appendable, closable. Okay, so flushable. These are like different classes that we can use still, but we have a file writer. So where will this class will help you to write the files one character, like one character at a time or a group of characters at a time. So this is like two ways of writing the characters, and you can write the integers also. So as I showed you, right? So I can directly write the integers also and characters also. Okay, I'm just converting this one into a character so that I can see that what is that character it has written. Okay, so these are different types of classes still we have, but we are going to use basically this. We are going to use these classes to read the data from the file. Okay, so this is like file writer. Now we are going to see the reader. How do we read the data from that file? Okay, so let me create. So simply I'm going to copy paste this class so that we can save our time. So here we'll change something as like file reader. File reader class. Okay. I'll type like file read. So here also we have read read data. Okay, I'll just write read data one. So this is kind of like read data one. Right. This is kind of like read data two. File reader. Right, reader. So here, if you are creating file reader, we have different methods, okay, to read the data. So how do we read the data now? See, file dot read. Okay, read. So here we have a character offer and character. See, these are the different methods that we have here. What I'm going to do is like, I'm going to read one character. If I want to read one character at a time, then what I'm going to do is like, again, just to go and try to read the data. Like for example, if we have at that particular index, for example, you see int I is equals to 10. Okay, read character. Then what is happening? One character at a time. So I can see it is asking you to, so something like, this is null line character. So we can read one character at a time. But now what I'm going to do is like, I'll try to read number of characters. See, instead of putting this for as like static, so this is not a best practice to do it. Okay. So what we do is like, we'll try to read all the data from that character. So if you want to read all the data from that particular character set or a file, then what we are going to do is like, we are going to create a simple method. See, what I'm going to do is like, now you see, it's very simple. So first what I'm going to do is like, I'll take some integer value here. Okay. So integer value. So this integer value that I'm going to check if that file has like, end of the file. Till the end of the file, I have to keep on continue to read that particular data from that file. Okay. So we have two notations, guys. Okay. If I say -1, okay. So -1. So -1 represents that is the end of the file. Okay. So to check it, what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to use a while and I is equals to fr.read. Okay. So fr.read, what it does is like, this is a simple method. It will return you the integer. If that integer is not equals to -1. Okay. So whatever the value that we are getting is not equals to -1, then what it does is like, it will keep on reading the data. Okay. So how do we print it now? So we'll just print it in a statement. Okay. So I'll print it as like I. Okay. So that's nothing but I'm getting the I value. So it is very simple, guys. Only thing is like, here also you can write fr.read file. But what we have to do, we have to continuously keep on iterating that particular file. Okay. The data in that file so that we can read the file. So that is the reason why I'm just taking it as like a I value here. And one is like, first time it goes and it checks in the file that this file has certain data. And you can see that it will take one character at a time. It will check it. Okay. So I is equal to fr.read. Fr.read in the sense what it does, it's going to return the integer. Some value will be written back. Okay. So some value will be written back. That is nothing but I value. Okay. So ASCII value will be written. So ASCII value is not like whatever value we are getting. For example, T is something says that 85 or something. 85 is not equals to -1. Okay. Likewise, what it does is like, it will take each character at a time. Every character in this in the given file, including the special character spaces or something, has some value. Okay, ASCII value. If you don't have any value here, see what happens is like, finally we are ending the file and we are not returning. We are not getting anything. fr.read, what it does is like, it's going to return -1. So when we say -1, this file will be closed. Okay, closed in the sense it will be like, we are done with the reading the file. Okay, file reading completed. I'm just going to give the notation as like file reading completed. Okay, so now we'll go and try to read the file. Okay, see, all we got is like ASCII values, but we have to get them as like a character. Then what we have to do? We have to use the char. We need to convert them into the character. Okay. So this is nothing but ASCII value, conversion of the ASCII values into the original characters. Now you see, all we got is like, this is a simple program to write data file. Okay. So just have given notation so that we can understand. Now what I'm going to like, I want to put it in a single line. Just I'm using print, only print. Okay. Print is like, it will write in the next line. Print is like, it's going to print the in a similar line. Now you see, so what it is doing, this is the file that we this is the content that we are reading it from the file. Okay, this is a file. This is a simple program to write data to the file. Okay, so that's nothing but I'm reading it with the help of reader file, reader class. Okay, so now you see, I'll go back to the file writer. Do we have any other things to write, or do we have any other things to do? See, we can append. Still, we can append the data. This is appended data. Execute this. Now you see, This is appended data. It is appended at the end. Now you go and try to execute the same program using the file reader. You can see the data is like appended. Whatever data that we have inside this file writer, like file, with the help of like file reader we have created, right? That data will be read using the file reader class. Okay. So this is one thing is, so still we can go ahead and try to, I thought like I can use another way also, but this is like, feasible way that we can use. Okay, are you clear with this, guys? So how do we read the data? So we have a simple, this is the only logic that we can use. Okay, I create object for this file reader and you take a variable. Now you get this, like, it's going to return an integer value. So integer value, it will be checked here. If that integer value is not equals to -1, you go and read the data from that, like whatever the data that we are getting as part of integer, that should be converted as character, and read it and continue until this condition is false. Okay, at the end of the file, it will come and you will see that it's like, -1, then it will just terminate the program. Okay, so that's the thing, but that loop will be terminated. Okay, one character at a time, as I showed you, like this is the one character at a time that we can use till we have this, read character at a time. So I'll show that one also. So read. See, we have this methods. Okay, read buffer. If you want to read from particular character to character, or if you want to read the character buffer. Okay, so if you want to store all the things as part of character array, then you can read it from that particular location. Okay, so this will become like, it's not much use here. So I'll talk about these things little later when we look into the advanced things. Okay, so let me just remove this, not to show you now. But what are the generic things that we are going to use, that I'm going to show. Okay, so now you see, so this is the way that we can use to read the data from the file. Are you clear with this, guys? What is file writer and file reader? File writer class will help you to write the data into the file. File reader class will help you to read the data from the file. Okay, file writer has got some methods like, file.write, character, strings, character buffer. Okay, and here reader also we have like read method. This read method will return you the integer value. So that integer value is like validated against the -1. -1 is like end of file. Okay. So
if in this file reader class, if we do not give this that system dot println one, so it will run the program or it will write.
it will run the program. See, you have to print the data right here. We are printing the data into the console. So
No,
this
no,
is
down that file reading completed one.
it is kind of like for my notation actually. Okay, so to see that if this is executed, that I'm saying that file reading is completed. Okay, so I'll say that effort.close. There is another. Say once we have reading that file and we need to close that. Okay, so this what is that? What it does is like, see, closes the stream and releases any system resources associated with it. For example, if somebody else is trying to read that file, it says that it is used by somebody else. So in that case, what it is like, it's going to throw the exception. I want to understand whether my whether my reading, whether my class has completed reading the file or not. Okay, this is nothing but simple notation from my end. File reading completed. You can just comment it also. It's not required. Okay, so for our understanding, we have to write this statement so that we can understand that file reading completed successfully. Okay, so here also file reading completed successfully. Just I'm writing this statement for our understanding, for us, for our convenience. Okay.
Okay.
So let's go to the buffered. Okay, let me just create for writer first, then after we can create the file reader. Buffer writer. So buffer writer class, it's like as everything is similar, only thing is like we are going to change the buffer. See, what we are trying to do is like now we have written already a file has been written, right? So we have created a file and we have written data in. But now this time I'm going to create a new file with BFW. Okay. So buffered file writer. So buffer file writer. So here you can see now it's kind of like it's going to through the exception, change the file path to the writer. Okay. So buffer writer, it's as simple as like see, now we have directly written the file. Okay. So we have opened the file and we are directly returning the file. That's what we are writing data into the file. But buffer writer is like it's going to create some buffer space for that file. Okay. So here we have a file. This is kind of like it's a buffer. Okay, it's a buffer. Okay, some space is allocated for this file, and this is actual file. Okay, so now if I need to read the data from this file directly, what I need to use, I need to use or write data to this file directly. I'm going to use file writer. Okay, file writer class will help you to write the data directly to this class. Okay, so this is like file writer. It will directly point to this file and it will write the data. But here you can see there is like buffer. Okay, some buffer is created. Some buffer is created so that you can just use that buffer to write the data. Okay, these both are similar, but the thing is like buffer writer will allocate some space for that file so that we can write that file and we can close the buffer. Okay, so now you see we have a file writer. This file writer should be passed as like a parameter to the constructor. Okay, so where do we need to pass? So buffer writer class. Okay, buffer writer. Buffer writer class. Now what it does, first it will go and it's kind of like buffer writer will have the parameters like a file writer. File writer will point to the file. Okay, but we have some space which is allocated for this particular file writer. Okay, so now you see, now here I'm going to say that new file writer. Okay, simply is like we are passing file writer to the buffer writer class. Okay, so this is nothing but constructor we have. Okay, inside this you can see, so buffer you can see writer output. Okay, writer is like again it is a main class. Okay, when you go to this particular thing, I'll show you how the documentation is like prepared for this. So API documentation. You can take IO package here. Java IO package. So in this we can see buffer writer. Okay, so now you see buffer writer is the child class of writer. Okay, so and what are the implementation classes? Closable, flushable, appendables. Okay, whatever you want to use, you can use it here. So like you want to close this buffer, you can close. Flushable is like if something is left in that buffer, you can just use a flush so that it will flush it. Okay, so appendable is like if you want to write something apart from whatever you have written and you want to append it, that will be useful for this. Okay, so we have a writer. So now you see, I'll go back and I'll try to. So what it is doing is like you cannot initialize this because we have a writer file writer class, which is kind of like a. So let's go back to this and try to understand now. Sorry guys, one second. Some background has just come up, guys. Sorry for that. So some file has come. So now you see file writer, we cannot instantiate the writer. Okay, so I'm going back here. I'll try to open the same documentation. buffer writer. So we go to the buffer writer. So what it is saying, like it's a class, it implements the, what are the different, direct known subclasses. Okay. So you can take, there's a buffer writer. Okay. So buffer writer, it's kind of like a child class to the writer. Okay. So if you are taking buffer writer and if you are trying to create object for the writer, there is no point of it. Okay. So that is the reason what we are doing is like we are going to use the file writer. Okay. So when you go to the file writer still extends output stream writer actually. Okay. So output stream writer. If you don't specify here, in case like if you are not specifying anything here, okay, what it is expecting here, you can say buffer writer, it's expecting the writer out. Okay. So outer writer and writer out is kind of like a stream. Okay. So which will help you to write the data. Abstract class for writing the to the character stream. So when we say this is the abstract class, okay, let's go to this writer class here. If it is specified as like abstract, we cannot create objects for this class. Okay. But what are the different things that we have? Like, whichever class is, extending this particular class, and that class should feel the responsible of providing data, like, whatever we are providing is like, methods as part of this class. When we, that class has to implement, okay, implement those details of this writer class. So writer class, now you see, they made it as like abstract, we cannot create object. So that is the reason why what we have to do is like, we have to create object for the file writer. Okay, it's simple, as simple as like, if you want to directly write the file, you can directly use file writer. If you want to use the buffer writer, like you want to space, you have some space, or that space will be allocated for that particular file until this buffer writer has completed it writing. Okay, so it's kind of like it will provide some space, so that in that space you will be placing this file and you'll be writing it. Okay, now you see file writing completed. Just I'm putting it to notify us like the file writing has been completed. Okay, here also it is similar thing. Just you can take it. Everything is similar. Only the thing is like the difference is like we are going to pass this as a like file writer as a parameter to this buffer writer constructor. Okay, so it's a constructor actually. Okay? So now you can see I'm going to execute this program and a new file should be created. File writing completed. Okay, so we are trying to write with the help of like we want to write in a string format, then it is written the file. Now I'm just refreshing this. I can see vfw.txt. Okay, this is a simple file program. This is a simple program to write data to the file. Okay, so this is like the another way of writing the file or else writing the data to the file. Now we are going to use buffer reader. Buffer. So this buffer reader class will read the data from the file VFW. Okay, you can use the FW also because we have two files which are available under this particular folder. Now what I need to do is like I'll be changing it as like buffer reader. Okay, so again we have to use same thing, okay? File reader. So for writer we are using file writer. Buffer writer, for buffer writer we are using file writer. In case of buffer reader we are using file reader. Okay, so buffer reader is kind of like it will provide some space for that file, and file reader would be reading that file, and after reading that file we'll be closing it. Okay, but here we have two ways of reading the data. Okay, one is like you can use this method, and you can read the data. Okay, so let me just give it as like BFR so that we can understand it clearly, just to differentiate it. Now when I go and execute this program, you see it is reading the data from this particular file VFW. Now there is another way. Okay, so we can use read method to read the data, and we have a read line method. Okay, for that we want to read character. Here we are trying to read character by character, but here directly we can read the data into the string. Okay, for that we are going to just create a variable called string line. Okay, so just I'm creating a variable string line. And here I'm going to change the logic. Okay. So what is the logic? Line BFR read line not equals to null. Okay. So directly you can read the line. Okay. See here in the first method is like directly we are taking reading character by character. But in second method, we are just creating a string, empty string, and we are checking that if that empty string is not equals to null, then it will write the data. Whatever data that we have inside that particular file, it will keep on writing data. So read line, here we are going to use the read line. Reads a line of a text. So here read is like reading the character, okay, single character data. So let's go and try to execute this. Here I'm going to use second. Okay, we'll go and try to execute and you'll see two lines will be made. So this is read character by character and this is read one line at a time. Okay. So now for example, if you have some data here, buffer writer, I'm just going to open this file and I'll try to we'll see. I'm going to create multiple lines of data. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is like I'll comment this one. First we'll read character by character. See, all the data has been read from that file. Okay, so now I'm going to comment this and I'll try to execute second method. Okay, so here also we are getting it, but here what I've done, I have to take next line because it's going to read one line at a time. Now we see. Okay, so one line at a time in the sense, first line it will see, yes, we have this data, it will print it. Okay, so as a print, it will append, keep on appending that file and it will, you can see that there is some difference. But here it is like print line. So once we are done with that, so it's going to the next line, it will try to print the data. Okay. So it's all like, how do you exactly read the data? But the thing is like, I'm just showing it on the console, but we have two ways of reading the data using the buffer reader. Okay. So buffer reader, one is like character by character, another one is like total string at a time. Okay. So one line at a time. Let us take like one line at a time. Okay. So are you clear with this, guys? There are two ways I've showed you. First way is like we can read character by character, and here we can read string by string. Okay, one line at a time. Okay, so now it's like the next way is like we have streams created. Okay, so stream in the sense there's a kind of a pipe, like you can see that whenever you want to put some data. For example, if you want to, like, let us take, we have a water. Okay, so if you want to store that water into a particular space, okay, you have some drum or any other thing. So what do? You have a connection for that, right? So connection in the sense there is a connection, like from the tank we have a connection and that water will be coming into your wash areas. So how do we exactly do? With the help of we have a stream. Stream is nothing but it's kind of like a pipe. Okay, so what happens in this case is like in simple terms, I'll show you a small diagram for that. So I'll show you. So flow of data in standard input output streams of stream files here. Now we can see keyboard standard input stream. So what it does is like it's kind of like a pipeline. Like, you are writing some program and this is your program and it's like it will be displaying the data. So that's nothing but you are typing something. This, let us take like this is a program and this is a file. So what you can do is like you can write the file, okay? Write the file and you can through the program that you are going to pass it as like a data to the file, okay? So what it does is like it's going to create the connection, okay? It's going to create a connection between your program and the file, and the middle is like it's like a stream. So the stream will be open, and through the stream you'll be reading and writing the file, okay? Reading and writing the file. So it doesn't know what data that you are writing. So but because of that reason, what it does is like it's going to transfer the data in the form of bytes, okay? It will not read the data character by character, or else it will not read the data string by string, but it will read the data in the form of bytes, okay? So writing also in the form of bytes. We have to use bytes. Okay, so bytes is like zeros and ones, right? So whatever we are going to send the data, that will be transferred as part of like zeros and ones. Okay, so let me take the example of streams here. So we'll create a program that, okay. So let me just create as file output stream. Okay, file output stream in the sense we are reading data from the file. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry for that. We are reading data from the program, not the file. Just give me a second, guys. Sorry for this. In simple terms, I'll tell you here. Sorry for this. 1 second. File output with the programmatical, with the diagrammatical approach I'm trying to explain you. File output stream. Okay. So in this case, program to file. Okay. So we are just trying to write data to the file. Okay. So file output stream. It's like file to program. Okay, remember this. File output stream is like program to file, and file input stream is like file to program. Okay, so whatever data that we are trying to write to the file, we are going to use file output stream. Whatever data that we are going to read from the file, we are going to use the file input stream. Okay, so file output stream here, and same thing again. Static string, file path. So this file path is like take this one. Yes, text. Main. Now file output stream to new file output stream and give the file location. So here we do not have any writer, file writer, buffer writer. Okay, so file output stream is like we have this file output stream. It's the file output stream. Yeah. So it is also returns the same file not found exception. If file is not there, so it will throw the file not found exception. But instead of that, I'm going to take IO exception. Now you can see we have created the stream and we have given the path of that file. Okay, it as simple as like the diagram here. We have a stream here. Okay, so this is a stream and this is a file. Okay, we are giving the path. This is the path, and data will be transferred, like data will be taken like this, and it's going to write the data to the file. Okay, so we have a program and we have created the stream here. So now you can see, I will take the another diagram here. You can see this is kind of like keyboard. This is a program and this is a file that we are. This is a the file. Let us take that. This is like a file. So what we are doing is like we are just writing the data. That's something, but we are opening the file and we are writing the data to the streams. Okay, so we don't have any kind of buffer here. Buffer is like as simple as like we are going to put some file inside this buffer area and we are writing the file. Here it's like file writer, directly we are opening the file. Okay, so here we are directly opening the file and we are writing it. But here in this case, we are putting that file into the buffer and we are writing. But here it's like we are using the streams. So what is the difference between this is like whenever you are going to go, if you want to go with the character by character, or if you want to write the strings, then you can use the file writer or buffer writer. But if you want to read the data, like if you have some images, some files, Excel files, or any other files which has like, which does not only have the characters, but still we have some images. In that case, what we do is like we are going to use the streams here. Okay. File output stream or file input stream. Now, see what I'm going to do is like files dot write bytes. Okay. It's asking for me the bytes. So what I want to try to write is like I want to write some data here. This is the string return using FOS. Okay, so I need to convert this one into the bytes. How do I do it? I can use a byte array and str dot get bytes. Directly, I can write this bytes. Okay, so FOS dot flush. Flush is just to, if something data is left over, in that case, we are going to use the flush. Okay. Now what I've done is like I've just taken the string and this string is converted into the bytes and this byte is written using the FOS dot write. Okay. So let's go and try to execute this program and see what is the output. We are done. Let's go and refresh. I see FOS dot text. You have written this. This is the string written using the FOS string. Okay. So if you want to write the bytes directly, you can write the bytes. And still, if you can just go and write. We don't have any kind of appends and all this. Okay. So here we can have, see what is that we have, right? Long timeouts or bytes or integers. So whatever like you want to add the integers, so you can go and add it. See, at the end, it is appending some special character which has the integer value 23. Okay, so write something 65. One character at a time. Okay, one character at a time is 1 byte at a time. See, we got A. Okay, so simple thing is like create object for this file output stream, and you can have the string here, and you can write that particular convert that particular string into the byte, then write it to the file. Okay, so write it to the file. That's the name of FOS dot write. We are going to write it into the file. So this is like file output stream. So what is file input stream now? As we discussed, what is file input stream? It's a file to the program. Now we are going to open that file and we are going to read the data from that file. Okay, so for that we are going to use file stream. So here take it. So FOS, we have written the data here into this file, right? Now we are going to read that file. I'll try to take this method here. So, but we are going to change few things over there. So what is that? I'm going to show you. Stream. The FIS. We don't need to put anything here, just we have to use file input stream. Okay. So we have this file input stream and we are going to use the same thing here. Okay. So see, the same method we can apply. We can read data character by character. Okay. First we'll look into this, read data character by character. So it's going to throw the IO exception. I'll just try to, yeah. Now we go and try to execute this program and see what is the data that we are going to execute. This is the files. This is a string written using the FIS string. Okay, a file reading completed. Okay, file reading completed. So this is the one method, and the second method would be like we are going to use here. Now you see what is happening here. Dot. We have read all bytes. Okay, so we don't have read lengths. We have read all bytes. So how do we read the data now? So I'll just close it here. Just remove it. Now we have to take the byte equals to files dot read all bytes. Okay, so we are going to read all bytes. So how do we print this now? So we got the bytes now from the file. Okay, so we got the bytes from the file. So for this, what we have to do is like we have to use for each, like directly I'm taking the advanced for, so wherein we are going to read the data. Okay, so we got the bytes. If I try to execute this program, what happens? It's like it's going to just give me the character base, like give me the ASCII values of that. Okay, let's go and execute what happens here. We'll see. See what we are getting. We are getting all the ASCII values, but we have to convert them into the character. Okay, so for that, what we need to do? We have to use character data type to get the values into the character. Just to display the values into the character. Now you see, we got the data from the file. That is nothing but we are using FIS.read all bytes. Okay, we are reading bytes in the form of bytes, not in the form of like any character or strings. But here it is similar. Okay, here it is like FIS.read. What it is like one character at a time. I mean, like it will return one character at a time in the form of like integer data type. So into data type, we are going to get that in data type, and we are going to convert them into the form of character. Then we are going to print it. So here also it is similar, but we are converting, or we are getting all the bytes at a time, and we are trying to print the bytes one after the other using the for loop. Okay, so these are the 3, 4, like altogether we have discussed 6 classes. Like I'll repeat it again. File writer will write the data to the file. Okay, so directly. File reader will read the data from the file directly. Buffer writer will write the data to the file using the file writer. Okay, so buffer reader will read the data from the file using the file reader. File input stream is like it's going to read the data from the file. File output stream is like it's going to write the data into the file through the program using the streams. Okay, so streams will be used to read the data from any kind of file. It's not only a character, but if you want to read the data in the form of characters, then we can go ahead with the file writer or file reader or buffer reader. Write the data, file writer or buffer writer. So this file streams is like it will create the streams. It's kind of like a connection. Whatever the data that you are sending, it's not flowing to that. Okay, so but it's like it will be converted into the bytes. So it can be it can be anything. It can be an image, it can be any like text data, or it can be an Excel file, it can be any CSV file. Everything will be done with the help of like file streams. Okay, so we have other classes also, guys. Still we have like buffer, like bytes, data, and printer classes. Streams also we can use, but again it's kind of like we have, if we are creating any of these classes, we have to keep on passing those as like parameters. If you are creating writer class, then you have to, writer class is like abstract class. Okay, likewise we have different classes. In that case, if you want to create any certain classes, or else if you want to create object for that classes, you should be passing those as like parameters. Okay, so instead of that, what I've done is like I've taken this 6 classes are directly, wherein it will help you to create objects directly, and you can read write data easily. Okay, so this is like file handling, guys. So with the help of this, we are going to handle the files. So probably I'll stop it here. So tomorrow we'll be discussing about like few other things. How do we get the last downloaded file? That's nothing but latest downloaded file. And how do we check whether it is file or not. How do we create the files? So that we are going to discuss tomorrow. Okay. So with this, hopefully we are mostly done with the file handling. So tomorrow I'll continue with that, and after that we'll start with the collections. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you guys. Please practice and let me know if you have any doubts. Okay.
Bye, sir.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Yeah. Bye.